Hey y'all, you want to know a secret? We all live the same life. Well, sort of. Sit down with us as we discuss various topics regarding being married millennials, where your spouse is both your best friend and your pain in the, well, you know.
Welcome to another episode of the Married to Millennials podcast. I'm Tuck.
Namishi,
What's up, baby?
hello.
Hey, guess what? Once again, I'm not gonna choose violence today. We'll be on the same team. How's that sound?
Okay, let's
You
see.
okay with that? Your competitive edge, will that allow you to do that?
Only if we win.
Okay. Wow. I mean, hopefully we win. We're gonna kind of need it. But let me take that back. I do have one little bone to pick with you.
Uh-oh.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So remember a couple
The
episodes
bone to
ago.
pick is never good.
It's not really. It's just pointing something out. Remember a couple episodes, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna let you, go to the store by yourself with them. I'm not gonna let you jump them. You
Or
let them."
let them jump me.
Yes, that's what I meant. You let them jump me the other day, and I don't know if I appreciate it. So me being, trying to be a good dad, I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna take the kids. I'm gonna take them outside, away, and we're just gonna play." um, and it was going fine at first.
Wait, like out of the house, like outside in the backyard?
No, not outside in the backyard, outside in the front yard.
Okay, you were still in the house.
Well, I mean, okay, it was going good. So at first we were like all riding. I even got on my bike. I was like, yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm gonna go on my bike. They're gonna ride with me, all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden they just started going in two different directions. Not like physically, but just like in whatever they were thinking. So mind you, I'm still trying to make sure that they're good with not getting hit by any cars, all that stuff, staying safe. But they all want to go in two different directions. Caden still wants to ride his bike. Calorie wants to come inside and get a Capri Sun. I said, okay, well, Caden, you stay over this way. But I want to ride. Okay, well, stay here, take a break too. Get a Capri Sun. He rides 2 feet and goes, I want a Capri Sun too. So I was just being ripped in two different directions. And you left me to get jumped.
I left you, or did you say, I got this?
Semantics. I know I might have said I got this, but good and
What was
doggone.
I doing inside?
I don't know.
I was cooking.
Were you cooking?
I was.
Oh,
I was in the kitchen,
so yeah.
slaving with an apron.
So we were dividing and conquering, and I just
Mm-hmm.
got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Uh-huh.
didn't leave me.
Nope.
Okay, that's fair. It felt like it though.
You lost.
I didn't lose anything. I just was expressing myself and just telling you how I felt. I thought I was getting jumped.
Mm.
Like the person that really get beat up. And it was there was 3 people, they hit me. And I was like, no, it was a one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt. So now that I've vented and got that off my chest, because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was
You
attacked right
tried
there.
to attack me.
No, I didn't try to attack you. It
I
was
was in here
just,
cooking a dinner.
I know. It was just, I wanted you to be aware of how I felt. But I want to. So our topic today I'm still going to ask you a question, but it's not going to be a competition. It's going to be collaborative. Okay, it's no points.
Okay.
Do you want more kids?
It's a loaded question.
It's a very loaded question. How do you
So
want to take this?
I'll go this way.
Okay.
So when we first got together,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very important question that, I mean, obviously not like when we first started dating, but like when we were getting serious and talking about marriage and all of that stuff,
Yes.
it was an important question for us to be like, do you want kids in
Mm-hmm.
general?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that was a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
Like I knew I wanted to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember how many kids I said I wanted?
Yes. You say you wanted four.
Four.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I wanted four children.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you wanted two,
Two.
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so we got in a pretty heated debate. Not really heated, but like it
Yeah.
was
Uh-huh.
a debate. Like, why two?
Right.
So tell the people why two?
I said two because one, let's start off this way. So that's what I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
I grew up knowing two kids. It was me and my little sister.
Who y'all are like 7 or 8 years apart.
Right. So, and technically My parents really only had one at a time,
Yeah,
but
y'all are
right.
y'all are only
You're
kids
right,
of
exactly.
siblings.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean that's all I saw. And I was like, there was another thing in the back of my head, and I still have the same thought to this day. I have a very well, I have a fear of being outnumbered
Okay.
with
And that's what
parent
you said back then too,
yes.
yeah.
And now it has become reality because now I see how it is to be a parent and I say, I don't want to be outnumbered. And that was the reason why I said two.
Yeah.
But I will say, as we started, getting to know each other, we got married, different things like that. I saw your family dynamic. I saw the big family. I was like,
Dysfunctional.
whatever, the big family. I saw the big family. I saw like you and your sisters, not communicate with each
Me and
other.
my sisters are
No, no, no,
the
no.
definition of dysfunctional, but
No,
I love
no,
them. We're the
no,
definition.
no. I saw the loving nature
We love each other, but
between
we
y'all,
fight.
and I saw the bond, and I said, well,
But we fight.
yes. I mean, every sibling fights, but I'm
Yeah.
just talking about all four of y'all, like the bond that
Yeah.
y'all had, like to say y'all were sisters and that you came from a big family and things like
It
that.
was four of us. It's
Yeah.
four of us. Yeah.
Yes. So I saw that and I said, "Oh, that doesn't seem too bad." So yeah, I can see us having four, and then my thought changed. Right,
Yeah.
it changed, but then
And that's why I wanted four too, because it was four of us. And so
right,
I never
that's what
felt
you
alone. I mean, I was the oldest, so
exactly.
sometimes it was a little bit different for me because it's 4 years between me and the next one,
Hmm.
right? So,
Right,
but then they were like stair step, back to back to
right,
back to back.
and
Um,
that's what I liked. I liked the stair step. Like I felt like me and my sister were way too many years apart, and I feel
y'all are
like
single kid. I mean,
yeah,
like only kids.
yeah, she jokes around and she was like, "Yeah, you remember this?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I wasn't in the house."
Yeah, at that point,
And she was like, "Oh, yeah, you weren't." You
right?
so yeah, so that's what I want. I wanted stair steps. So that's I mean, it's kind of what we
Yeah, by the time she was 10, you were graduating high school.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. But for me, like four made sense. I mean, it just, you
Mhm.
never felt alone. You never felt
Right.
like if nobody else came to something, you had your siblings, right? And
Mhm.
then like my cousins, my dad's sister also has four children. And so it
Right.
was just normal for me
Right.
to see that.
Mhm.
And so I always thought, I could be the mom with you know,
Yeah.
not I don't want 10 kids. I never wanted 10 kids, but like four kids
Yeah.
sounded right to me.
Right.
And so anyway, I wanted four kids and once we got married, again, like nobody ever knows a timeline
Mhm.
or anything like that. And I knew I wanted to be a mom, didn't know
Yes.
when, but we ended up being pregnant
Mhm.
a year after, almost a year after
Yes.
we got married.
Mhm.
And I remember being so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, it's about to happen. I mean, I was still super young. I was
Mhm.
23.
Yeah.
And now to look back on it, I'm like,
Yikes.
I don't know if I was ready
Right. Yeah.
mentally,
Mhm.
but I was super excited about it. I shared with my mom, our parents
Yeah.
super early, but it just didn't turn out the way that we planned,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So we shared the news with our close family and friends, and then ended up having to go back and say, yeah, it,
Mhm.
it wasn't happening because that was
Right.
that was an early miscarriage. I
Yeah.
mean, we found out at about 8 weeks
Right.
that, you know, or it might have been earlier. It might have been 7 weeks or so
Uh-huh.
that I was pregnant.
We went for the first visit, so it had to be like around.
The first visit was at 10 weeks
Yeah.
though, and so that's when you know everything starts spiraling. At that point,
Right.
it was a super early miscarriage,
Mhm.
and that was tough.
Yeah.
Like being on that high horse of like I'm about to be a mom. I'm excited about
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
I have a husband, and we love each other, and we're
Right.
excited to have a kid, and then it just get crushed that quickly,
Right.
right?
Right.
And at the time, that same year, I was graduating
Uh-huh.
because I had to take that fifth year,
Right.
that fifth year in college. So I was graduating,
Mhm.
And we also found out that my grandfather had pancreatic cancer.
Right.
And by the time I found out to the time he passed, it was only like a 2 month span,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So when we found out, it was like right before my graduation,
Mhm.
I remember. And so
Is
of course my grandparents, they were the close to us, so
right.
they knew about it, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But then my grandfather passed, right? And so
Mhm.
he the miscarriage was shortly after that. And I just remember people saying to me like, "Oh, I heard you were pregnant," da, da,
Yeah.
da, da," and I
Uh-huh.
and I had to say, "I'm not,"
Right.
right? And people thought I was just trying to hide it,
Mhm.
but it was truly that we were no longer pregnant,
Right.
but my grandfather had shared it out of excitement.
Mhm.
And I think that crushed me too.
Right.
So at that point, I didn't know when or why or how, I was going to be
Right.
a mom.
Mhm.
So like the start of it was really bumpy.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, for me as well too, like you talked about, everyone knowing and then coming up saying like, "Oh, congratulations." Like, I had to play like a lot of damage control.
Hmm.
I had to go. I almost was like your security guard. Like I didn't want anybody coming and saying anything about the pregnancy, so I would come up, and almost like nipping in the bud before it can even be said, because I
Yeah.
wanted to protect your really sanity at that point, because it's something that you really really want, and then it doesn't happen. And for you, I mean, you can share this as well too, but I can share it just from my perspective. But it's the blame game. Like, you were,
Yeah.
blaming yourself, and I'm just like, babe, it was out of your control. So I wanted to, you know, help you with that, all at the same time of me, you know, figuring out my feelings, but then also protecting you at the same time. So it was almost like it literally felt like a dance, like the entire time during our situation, and I was almost lost a little bit as well too. But at the same time, I can't show that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's not fair though.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just talking about from my perspective.
No, I'm saying, but
Yeah.
for you, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like that's not fair for you to have to only worry about my emotions and not be able to dive into your own.
Hmm.
And I think that was tough too, right? Because I knew like we had been discussing it and
Yeah.
excited and all together. So like as much as it was bothering me,
Hmm.
I knew it had to be bothering you too. But again, like you said, you tried to put on that brave face for
Yeah.
me, right? And so, nobody, we talked about this before, nobody really talks about miscarriages and stuff
Right.
like that on their highlight reels, right? Like on
True.
on on things on social media or in
Hmm.
person, like that just does not come up
Right.
typically. And so that was really tough because we didn't know who to talk to about it.
Right.
And then, so, I mean, I'm taking the long route, but what I'm trying to do is explain m- my whole thoughts on being a mom, right?
Yes.
So, with that being said, that wasn't the only time,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And so we had that miscarriage, and then between, so that was 2015.
Yes.
So between 2015 and 2018,
Hmm.
so that 3-year span,
Hmm.
we had a total of 5
Hmm.
miscarriages.
Right.
Couple were like super, super, super early, and
Hmm.
then some that just kind of was right before that first trimester ended,
Right.
right? Because I remember there were some that I would go in for the blood work, and like my HCG levels would be at this. Yes, you're pregnant, but
Yeah.
then go in the next couple days and they're dropping. So
Right.
like it wasn't even enough time for me to sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm pregnant," right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then the ones there were like two that were just right before the first trimester ended. So I was like, "What is happening? Is
Right.
this ever going to happen to me?" And that
Hmm.
was emotionally draining,
Right.
and the roller coaster just kept going.
Hmm.
And I mean, the whole time you were just being supportive and trying to make sure that I was okay. But I mean, not it wasn't until later that we actually were able to talk about your feelings and thoughts. So I wanted you to share some of that too.
During that time, for one, I just did not know what was happening. Like, once again, people don't talk about miscarriages. Like, I knew about miscarriages. I didn't know all the, details as far as the process, different things like that, the different options, of course. And, I don't want to go down that road. But it was just more of like, it was so confusing. It was like, how do I help? And
Mhm.
that's my nature, is to, how do I help? How do I make my wife feel better? How do I express my emotions, express my feelings, but not put extra stress on her at the same time? That was all the thoughts that were going through my head. There were things like, me on the medical side, I'm like, well, what can we do? I'm doing all this research, like, what is happening? What do we need to do? How can I fix this? It was like a whole bunch of fixing within those years. Like,
Yeah.
and I had to sit back and, you know, take a seat, because a lot of times when we try, it's something that I always have in my head. When we try to tell God our plans, he laughs at us. And I don't think it's more of like a laugh, like, oh yeah, it's just more of like, you have to put your trust in him.
Hmm.
Like, during that time, of course, I had a lot of negative thoughts. Like, I thought, am I being punished? Like, what is this? What is actually going on? Like, I wasn't questioning God, but I'm just like, why me, God? Why us, God? And I feel like during that time, my faith actually got a little bit, stronger, because you would say things to me like, keep the faith, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, things like that. Like, you were encouraging me without you not even knowing, because I wasn't showing any, emotion, but it was just more of like a thing you said, just because it's both of us going through it. And it also helped you feel better, which in
Yeah, I was just about to say that
it,
because me saying that
yeah,
stuff, it made me have to believe it.
right, exactly, exactly.
Like saying it out loud made it real. It
Hmm.
made it to where I had to believe that if it was for us, it was going to be for us. That
Right,
we weren't, that God wasn't just going to leave us without having some type of answer or a plan,
right,
right?
exactly.
And so, while it was very, very difficult, and
Hmm.
still to this day, I look back and I'm like, wow, you
Yeah,
know, it was very, very difficult. But we had each other, and I'm thankful for that
right.
because if I didn't have a supportive partner at that time, things could have been a whole lot different. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
But we were able to talk. And while you didn't share 100% of your emotions because you were trying not to overwhelm me,
Hmm.
we were still able to share like one day, one day
Hmm.
it'll be ours, one day it'll happen. And I think the biggest piece behind it was more of, okay, so wow, we just talked about we weren't rushing it,
Hmm.
when we first got married. Once all of that happened, it was like, well, will it ever happen?
Right, right.
Now I'm getting a little concerned and worried and scared altogether about, will I ever be able to be a mom when I'm truly ready?
Hmm.
So, um, I just, with all of that being said, it was an emotional roller coaster. It was
Yeah.
it was definitely difficult. But me saying that out loud was just so that I could make sure that I believed it too.
Right, right.
So anyway, fast forward,
Hmm.
and we found out that we're pregnant again.
Yeah.
The craziest thing to me is that last miscarriage.
Hmm.
You remember I had to go in for DNC.
Yeah.
So we went into the hospital for the DNC,
Hmm.
and that was like the last miscarriage that we had, at least that we know of, right?
Yeah.
So then a year later, ironically, to the day,
Hmm.
we had a baby.
Right.
Two of them, but
Right.
one that we were able to bring home.
Right.
So I remember whenever we were first finding out that we were pregnant,
Hmm.
we're, we were really hesitant on like being excited
Right. Right.
because of all the history.
Yes.
So we went to the, this was between that time, right? We had visited the fertility specialist,
Mhm.
talked to the OB, all of that stuff, just to try to figure out like what's going on.
Right.
I ended up finding out like, well, PCOS, issues with ovulating. You can ovulate, just not regularly.
Mhm.
And then when you do get pregnant, you don't have the progesterone in your body enough to be
Right.
able to protect the placenta, or
Mhm.
whatever. I'm saying that and kind of like
Right.
paraphrasing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that my placenta wasn't being able to protect the baby the way it
Mhm.
was supposed to.
Yeah.
So ended up having progesterone pills that I had to take, and like that was like one of the keys to us being able to have a kid.
Right.
So anyway, I remember going into that doctor's appointment with Dr. Green,
Mhm.
and she looked up on the screen and she laughed.
Right. I said, "What you laughing at?"
But like we could kind of read the x-ray a little, not x-ray, but you know what I mean. We could read the ultrasound a little bit.
Mhm. Oh, I saw it.
Um so we kind of saw it, but we didn't say anything until she started laughing. And then so she was like, "You see what I see?" And we were like, "Yeah, there's
Uh-huh.
two things moving in there."
Right. Right.
Um and I remember just taking a big deep breath.
Mhm.
Like it was like I giggled, but then I was like a big breath, right?
Mhm.
Because there had been so many times that we had been in that room
Right.
and nothing was moving.
Right. Exactly.
And now we got two things moving in
Right.
there, right? So we kept that secret for a very long time.
We did.
We didn't tell anybody we were pregnant, I think, maybe except for Trey and Siobhan,
Right. Right.
until that first trimester was up.
Mhm.
Like I remember even keeping it from my family, our
Yeah.
family, my grandma.
Yeah.
She was like, "I need to check you out. You like you
Uh-huh.
laying on eggs," and I still had to like keep a straight face, and that was right after we found out. It was really
Right.
creepy, but
Very creepy.
that's who she, that's who she was. So like we try to keep that a secret for a very long time, just because we didn't want that emotional roller coaster
Right.
again of having to be like, we're having a baby. No, we're not,
Right.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
So we made it through that first trimester. I remember I was so excited.
Mhm.
Um, it was actually right at our anniversary,
Yeah.
our wedding anniversary, our fifth anniversary,
Yeah.
that we were able to be past our first trimester and tell people.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing, right?
Mhm.
But it was like we still couldn't breathe. Do you ever feel like that?
Yes. No, for sure. It was like holding in a secret. One that you're excited. You are excited about it, but it's
Waiting on
all
the other shoe to drop.
yeah, exactly. It's almost like not getting your hopes up so you don't get disappointed. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And for one, I mean, look at while you're in it, you can't really say that, but I mean, it's healthy, really. You know, for that
Yeah.
for you to even think like that, to always think during that time like the negative, like this is
It's
something that's
stressing,
it's very
honestly.
stressing, and it's a joyous time, but it was almost like we didn't really get to enjoy it fully
Yeah.
until later. You know what I mean?
I think I've started to kind of breathe a little bit
Yeah.
once we had our gender reveal.
Yes.
Because at
Mhm.
that point I was like, okay, all right, we're far enough along. Like this is happening. We're having two boys. Like, what are we
Right.
gonna do? I don't know. But like, it's
Right.
happening.
Right.
So we had the gender reveal and found out we were having twin boys. But then it was just that whole time, like, okay, is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen?
Right.
Right.
It's always expecting the
And
worst.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
something did happen.
Yeah.
And we went in for like, it was like 33 to 34 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just will never forget the ultrasound tech
Mhm.
at maternal fetal medicine,
Yeah.
since I was having twins and I had miscarriages before. I had to
Right.
go in for, what was considered
High risk.
like a high risk
Yeah.
pregnancy. But I'll never forget, like, she was chewing gum so loud. I hated it.
Mhm.
But she didn't really say anything. And she just stopped.
Yeah.
and she ran out of the room.
Mhm.
The next thing you know, a doctor's coming in telling us that we lost baby B.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it.
I was numb. I just didn't. I was. It was almost like why, and you're just gonna leave it at that.
I
You
was
know
in
what I mean?
disbelief,
Yeah, for
honestly,
sure, for sure.
because I just knew I felt both of them kicking
Right,
that morning.
right.
But it was a 34-week checkup because
Yeah.
I remember the doctor saying, you know, based on what we see, we believe that it's been a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I had been going every
Every week.
2 weeks and then to every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So at that point, I was going every week. So it had been about a week
Mm-hmm.
since the last time I had been in there, and he was doing fine
Yeah.
from what they told me.
Right.
Right. So to hear that news, I remember being in just a bargaining phase of like, no, there's no way. Like
Yeah.
I, I felt them kick me this morning.
Uh huh.
And I remember the daughter saying, it was probably baby A and, baby A looks fine
Mm-hmm.
and, all this stuff. And she was like, you're going to have to deliver early anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
we think baby A is okay because they were fraternal. They
Yeah.
weren't identical. So
Yeah.
we believe baby A will be okay. You just need to take care of yourself and
Mm-hmm.
you will deliver two babies, but, unfortunately, one won't be going home with you.
Yeah.
And I just remember bawling.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like air was taken out of my body
Right.
and I was punched in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember your emotion at the time because I felt like I couldn't even see straight.
Yeah. I will be honest with you. What my emotion was, it was just anger,
Hmm.
and it was so crazy because like I was mad, but I didn't know who I was mad at.
Hmm.
Like, was I mad at myself? I know I wasn't mad at you. I think I was really mad at the whole situation. Like, you know how when you play something through your head, like you have all these expectations. I'm like, man, two twin boys. I had all these things in my head like I was gonna do, and it was like, no, it's not gonna go that way. And it was
Like,
just
yeah, I
mad.
remember you having, like, we took pictures. My mom took our pictures
Yeah.
and you had those two outfits and
Mhm.
we had onesies with their names on the back.
Mhm.
And this news came that week after our baby shower,
Yep.
you know, that my mom threw, my mom
Mhm.
and dad threw. So we had a ton of people there because,
Right.
Carter Bill had to invite everybody.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
we had a ton of people there and we were so excited, but then it was like,
Mhm. Right. It was. It was just more of like I don't even know how to explain. It was just like it wasn't sadness because it was like I mean, well, let's. It sounds so bad, but like let's focus on baby A. But then it was like, what? Why do we have to do that? You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Like, why does it have to even be that way? Like I said, I had all these expectations. Like, had these, daydreaming about
yeah,
both of them, and like now I have to daydream of when Caden asks about his brother. Like, what am I gonna say? Like,
mm-hmm,
I'm thinking about that already.
yeah,
I'm thinking about how is his life going to be knowing that he had a brother, and like how do I explain that to him? I had already thought about that.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's tough because it's like, man, now I really at this time like now I'm on edge.
mm-hmm,
Like I'm on edge. I'm thinking about all these different thoughts. I'm thinking the worst. Like it just was a lot to even process.
mm-hmm,
But then at the same time, like we talked about before, me, how I am, I'm like, all right, shut that off for a second.
yeah,
Put your game face on. Your wife is in this office bawling.
mm-hmm,
Pick her up. You know.
mm-hmm, yeah. And yeah, I was balling. And I
Mhm.
think for the crazy thing about it, like looking back on it,
Mhm.
I bawled, I cried hard
Mhm.
for probably a good 20, 25 minutes in that room.
Yeah.
I remember they were just like, we're just gonna leave you in here, like you take as much time as you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 20, 25 minutes that I really bawled. But by
Yeah.
the time I walked out of that room, I had already had my mind made up that I wasn't gonna hold my head down.
Right.
I don't know if you remember me saying that. I was like, I have to be okay
Yes.
for Caden because we
Yes.
had already named him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I have to be okay for Caden.
Right.
Like, he has to get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And that was tough. But at the same time, it was just one of those things that I was like, I'm doing it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a common mom.
Yes.
This baby is coming in this world
Right.
one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that was tough, but it was one of the I think that was what made me switch my mind and the gears so
Mm-hmm.
quickly,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, God, you're going to get us through it. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ideal. It's not what I planned. It's not what we anticipated, but we are going to be parents at the end of this,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we didn't tell anybody.
No, we did not.
I
We didn't
mean, I think
tell.
we told our parents, like, just because we didn't want them to be sticker shocked,
Right. Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and my grandmother, our grandparents, I
Yeah.
think we told them, but
Uh-huh.
everybody else we didn't tell.
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, I think Trey and Siobhan knew, but
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else didn't know.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, no one else knew, and I think we decide well, not just on that part. I think we decided just because we didn't want to have to answer a whole bunch of questions as well
Yeah, I
too,
wasn't
because we
ready.
wanted our, like I said,
Hmm.
we weren't ready. We wanted our focus to be on Caden and making sure that he made it Earthside, and that
Yeah.
was one of our main focuses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um,
You okay?
yeah. What's up, family? Did you enjoy the episode? Well, great. Show some love. Follow us on the Married to Millennials podcast YouTube channel. Follow us on every major platform for podcasts. And if you really want to tap in, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at M2M Podcast. Let's go.